Chat, I'm actually a big fan of Nickelback. I remember a few years back, people were non-stop hating on Nickelback. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. Nickelback is peak, like, legit. I feel like in the, like, last 2-3 years, more and more people are just saying that they like Nickelback. SunnyV2 jumpscare? Yeah, this is actually an older video of his. This is like 2 years old. I don't know, it got randomly recommended to me and I thought, you know, why not? I like Nickelback.
How did Nickelback come to be universally hated by everyone? Well, the hatred began with something
Look at this graph! Sorry.
completely out of Nickelback's control and was rather related to the opinion held by another popular public figure. In 2003, approximately 8 years after Nickelback was created, a comedian by the name of Brian Posehn would appear on a Comedy Central talk show titled Tough Crowd, during which he would make a joke about bad music making people violent before using Nickelback as an example.
Bad music makes people violent. Like Nickelback makes me want to kill Nickelback.
How dare he!
At the time, the other hosts on the show didn't even know who Nickelback was, yet Brian Posehn continued to reassure them with conviction that the band was truly horrible.
I'm so old, I don't even know who Nickelback is.
I'll have to agree with Nick.
They're not good. They're horrible. Just trust me.
Now, you'd probably assume that this one little comment wasn't enough to make the entire world hate Nickelback, right?
Yeah.
Well, the problem was, instead of this comment being a small thing in a relatively obscure episode on Comedy Central, the joke was actually featured in the station's main commercial, which was broadcast to millions for a period of over 6 months. With it, the
Why would they do that? That just... What? Could Nickelback sue them for that? I don't know. It's just his opinion after all, right? But they're like broadcasting this over and over and over and over again.
hatred for Nickelback began to go viral, which was outlined by one user on Reddit who stated, "The joke was on every Tough Crowd promo and nearly all the time. After hearing this joke during every promo for a couple of weeks, I began to hear everyone at my middle school begin to mock Nickelback mercilessly. The worst
That's what, bro, is this actually where the hate came from? Because as I said, I remember like many years ago, so many people just hated Nickelback for like nothing. You'd mention Nickelback and people were like, ugh. What?
worthwhile part of that repetitive commercial was of course the punchline, "Listening to Nickelback makes me want to kill Nickelback." The whisper down the lane aspect of the joke telling allowed the origin to slowly disappear until even people unfamiliar with modern music knew there was something detestable about Nickelback. Internet meme culture would then facilitate the hatred in the late noughties and early 2010s.
The only thing I want to hear right now is the sweet sound of this Nickelback CD cracking as I drive over it repeatedly.
With articles such as the
Bro!
14 most brutal Nickelback memes of all time, featuring bangers such as "Still a better band than Nickelback."
I remember those memes. I remember those. Like, still a better band than Nickelback. Bro! I'm old. I'm so old. Oh. My back starts to hurt now.
Nickelback, parents surprising with concert tickets, Nickelback, and
I seen that one! Bro! I seen this one! Unironically. You guys are gonna hate me for this. Unironically on 9gag. Bro, I don't get why people hated 9gag. Did you guys ever use 9gag? Was 9gag actually hateable? I don't know. I was just browsing it. I was like scrolling for memes. Why do people hate 9gag? Like, whenever I would mention to people, yo, I browse on 9gag, people would look at me like I'm the worst human being ever. I actually like a lot of Nickelback music. Bro, same! I love them. Legitimately one of my favorite bands. You'll make me puke 9gag, but why? Why is 9gag hated?
And due to a coal shortage, Santa will be giving all bad little boys and girls Nickelback CDs. In addition to this, a company by the name of Labs would develop a Chrome extension by the name of Nickelblock, never see Nickelback on the internet again, and by 2012 even Adam Sandler was jumping in on the hate train with a tweet reading, "If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, then have we found the perfect location for a Nickelback concert?"
Why? Now, I know it's okay to have, like, different music tastes, right? Like, absolutely. But it was so universally hated.
But it became kind of a trend and kind of, you know,
cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, it started to become sort of like a almost a constant, and it hurt.
What Mike Kroger seemed to imply in that clip was that much of the Nickelback hatred was spreading simply because other people hated Nickelback. And those other people who hated Nickelback hated them because someone else hated Nickelback before them. This whole phenomena was outlined hilariously in a Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan episode.
It's the same reason everybody hates Nickelback. Because the internet says so.
So it's literally just cheap behavior. Bro, I'm glad that I always stood by them. Like, as in, like, with my own opinion. Fuck what everyone else thinks, man. 9gag had that cringe time capsule that made a lot of people hate them. I think Internet Historian has a video on them. Oh, really? Can you maybe recommend that in the recommendations on Discord? I'd be interested in watching that.
Yet this still feels like too simple of an explanation. Why did Brian Posehn choose to rip on Nickelback in the first place? Why didn't he choose a different band? Why was his conviction so strong that he attempted to convince the other hosts on the show of how bad Nickelback was?
Imagine if it's personal.
Well, perhaps it was because he was being forced to listen to them against his will. In 2002, just a year prior to Brian Posehn making his viral comment about Nickelback being terrible, the band's most famous song, How You Remind Me, was crowned as the most played radio song of 2002, and by 2000.
Sorry about that.
A year prior to Brian Posehn making his viral comment about Nickelback being terrible, the band's most famous song, How You Remind Me, was crowned as the most played radio song of 2002, and by 2009 it was crowned as the most played radio song of the decade.
Oh, How You Remind Me, but that's such a great song! This is how you remind me of what I really am. Bro! What you have in How You Remind Me?
Been spun on air over 1.2 million times. Just to give you an idea about how crazy that number is, in 2002 there was never a given second on American radio that How You Remind Me wasn't being played on any one station.
In the United States, at the time that the album came out, they say that
What's your fav Nickelback song? Mine's If Everyone Cared.
Bro, it's been a bit since I've listened to Nickelback, but I have a lot of favorite songs of them. I forgot what it was called though. I have no, not at all. Photograph? No.
Graph?
No! Shut up! Bro, Try Not to Love You, that's one of my favorites. And Far Away, if I'm thinking of the right one. If I'm thinking of the right one, these are two of my favorite ones. And obviously How You Remind Me. Oh, that's Try Not to Love You. There was a song where I love the music video of. That's one of my favorite ones. Here, I'd Come For You, bro. This one, I'd Come For You. Amazing. Absolutely fucking love the song. Bro, the music video makes me fucking cry.
any given second in those days, that song was in play. There was never a moment in that year when it wasn't playing.
Perhaps rather than hating the band for the music itself, people were sick of Nickelback being shoved down their throats by radio stations throughout the 2000s.
Okay, to be honest, I can a little bit relate to that, right? When I was still like heavily listening to radio, one of the songs that one of the radio stations I would always listen to always played at least once half an hour was Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. Unironically, they played that every half an hour. I can't listen to that song anymore. I cannot. Like, I cannot listen to the song anymore. They overplayed it for me. It's over for me. So I get where he's coming from. They released multiple albums with songs that if you change the lyrics to How You Remind Me, they would all just be exactly like How You Remind Me. The band also became quickly popular among boomer dads, which to other people just made it uncool. Yeah, you know what? I can see that. I can see that happening. And like that other guy said, one person hated it, said their opinion on the internet, and it just snowballed, and people that never listened to it started hating it too. Yeah, because it was the cool thing to do. Multiple Ed Sheeran songs, bro. I like Ed Sheeran too. The only thing I know of that song is when it's used as a sound alert, like when someone dies in Dark Souls. Oh.
While these days we consume music by choosing what we want to listen to on YouTube or Spotify, this luxury didn't exist in 2002, unless you—
Yeah.
TBH, I used to be a total Nickelback apologist back then before just acting like a regular fan. Honestly, I feel like the hate especially in the last 10 years is completely overblown and forced. At least the hate for Maroon 5 is justified, and I really don't like Maroon 5 post 2010. Burn It to the Ground was my favorite Nickelback song cause it used to be the theme
Oh, that's
for
a good one.
WWE's
Yeah,
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bro, that song is such a banger.
you had a specific CD, you were at the mercy of whatever the radio decided to play, and with every station blasting How You Remind Me all day, every day, it seemed Nickelback was inescapable. While this must have been great in terms of exposing Nickelback to the world, perhaps it went a little too far. How many of you guys have unfollowed an influencer or a friend on Facebook because they post 50 different times per day? Or have you ever had a friend force you to watch a piece of media, whether it be a song, video, or movie, and because you didn't choose to watch it, it feels uncomfortable and you just want it to end? It seemed as though—
Radio
absolutely.
stations are way to cringe. They only play the most popular music all the time.
True.
I recall a short period of time where some small ones would play indie stuff that would introduce you to new bands. I don't recall when was the last time I had heard something new on radio.
Yeah, it's been a while.
This is how the world felt during Nickelback's blow-up, as summarized beautifully in an article written about the band. The song became too big. It never stopped playing. It was everywhere. Its legacy is that it introduced people to Nickelback. In doing so, it became a signpost, a specific moment in time when you met the thing you hate. Now it's hated by association. Now, in order for the song to have been getting that much airtime in the first place, some people must have
It had to be good.
Yet
Yes.
Mike Kroger would go on to state that much of the success they achieved as a result of the song would eventually turn into hatred.
The time at which Nickelback began to suck started shortly after we started to sell millions and millions of albums. And everybody loves an underdog until they're no longer the underdog. And then once you're not the underdog anymore, that's when you start to suck.
Mike Kroger's theory that people hated the band simply because they were successful was certainly plausible, as a Finnish academic study on the hatred of Nickelback found that between 2000 and 2014, the more successful Nickelback got, the worse their reviews grew, which was supported by a user on Reddit who wrote, "The only reason that so many people seem to hate Nickelback is because of how popular they are, selling over 50 million albums worldwide."
50 million albums worldwide, that's massive. Bruh, but yeah, I guess it's just like hating on the popular thing. Like, that's my guess.
It didn't help that certain media outlets literally had a policy where they weren't allowed to write positive stories about Nickelback. Mike Kroger explained that he met a former journalist for Rolling Stone who had written a positive review of a Nickelback album while working for the media company, yet Rolling Stone never allowed the journalist to post it simply because it was positive.
And this journalist said, hey, I gotta tell you a story. He was asked to review one of our albums, and he wrote a very, very detailed and well thought out review of the album, and it was
They were not
positive.
allowed
He
to
took it to
post
his editor, and his editor just said, I'm not going to print this, because we here
What?
at Rolling Stone are very anti-Nickelback. We do not like Nickelback. We
Are you allowed to do that? What the fuck?
can't write good things about Nickelback.
And if this was
That's
the narrative being held by the
insane.
media, it's hardly surprising to discover that there have been countless other negative articles on the band, although to be fair, some of them have certainly been a result of Nickelback's poor decisions. For example, in 2006, the Nickelback frontman was stopped by police for speeding in his luxury Lamborghini sports car. A breath test found he had nearly twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system. Along similar lines, in an interview
That's not
with
good.
Playboy, Chad Kroger bragged about once having drunk 13 Corona beers in a row, stating that he can down a Corona in 5 or 6 seconds, although while their drinking habits along with their love for car chases, explosions and big boobs probably just made their audience—
Bro, that's just the average guy though. Cars, explosions, big boobs. That's just the average guy.
love them even more. One thing that they would do in 2008 might actually qualify as the first thing done by Nickelback themselves to have a genuine impact on their reputation. In fact, this thing was so detrimental that the Finnish academic study we mentioned earlier anchored it as the main reason behind the band's poor reputation, and it began when they wrote a song by the name of Rockstar in 2005.
But Rockstar is a good song!
After releasing the song, it was licensed to DFS Furniture for an advertisement, which was so terrible that it put a dent in the band's reputation.
No. Wait.
Rockstar in 2005. 3 years after releasing the song, it was licensed to DFS Furniture for an advertisement, which was
DSF? Did I hear that right? DFS Furniture Nickelback.
Tell me what you want. The DFS say.
That's great. Yeah, KoAlan, you might want to cut this one out of the reaction, but that's great! Physical paper, I love how cringe it is. That's so good.
So terrible that it put a dent in the band's reputation. Nickelback's branding was, as mentioned previously, about metal, beers, and the same things Middle America likes. Therefore, licensing their music to a commercial that looked like this felt a little bit inauthentic. Now, we can probably all agree that it feels like a bit of a stretch to claim that Nickelback's worldwide hatred came about as a result of one relatively obscure furniture advertisement. However, according to the Finnish study, the issue, Antonin writes, is about the perception of authenticity. Rock critics like to think of themselves as protectors of originality, and they perceive—
Oh god, it was just some dumbass gatekeeping bullshit then. Oh my god. It's literally just dumbass gatekeeping in this case, man. What do you mean?
Perceived Nickelback to be a bunch of sellouts, true to their money rather than the art.
That was like generally the general consensus back then though, right? Like even YouTubers, if they took any sponsorships back like in those years, would be considered sellouts. Like nowadays nobody fucking cares or gives a shit, and people tell people to get that back. It was just a different time.
Perhaps it was less about them being in the background of a furniture ad, and more about them selling their music to the furniture ad in the first place. People perceived them as sellouts with zero standards. In addition to this, the Finnish study made the claim that fans were unhappy with Nickelback's perceived lack of originality. When you listen to Nickelback, you think a generic rock song not pushing the envelope. Nickelback is too much of everything to be enough of something. They follow genre expectations too well, which is seen as empty imitation, but also not well enough, which is read as commercial tactics and as a lack of a stable and sincere identity.
I don't know, I feel like that's a bit unfair. I feel like Nickelback is great. Sure, it's like not super innovative in music, but you know, the kind of concept only cost 45 cents, one featuring 50 cents at Nickelback. I hate you.
The idea that Nickelback were hated for being a generic risk-free rock band has been theorized everywhere on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Not everything has to be an innovative.
In a Reddit thread attempting to discover how the band became so hated, one user wrote, "People hate Nickelback because they represent the idea that a record label can take any band, no matter how bad, and make them popular. The label can use clever PR and good advertising
That's not true at all, though. That is not
to make loads of money off a band that is just mediocre. People don't hate the band nearly as much as they hate the idea that the band represents," which was followed by a reply reading, "They're a mediocre band that has experienced precisely zero musical growth and exists purely as a vehicle to print money for record labels. They
I don't know, just let them make music, man. But what's all this hate?
knew they were a mediocre band, didn't care about musical growth, signed on knowing what the plan was, and had no problem with any of it."
I don't see any problem with just wanting to play music. You know, Nickelback made good music though, what the fuck? Yeah, they did. I agree with you. And as we already established, not all music has to be fucking innovative.
It doesn't even make sense to hate Nickelback for their music. It's not distinctive enough to be worthy of notice. It's carefully designed to be pointless and catchy. It's a product built to appeal to the lowest common denominator. It doesn't do anything wrong because it doesn't dare to take any risks. To put it simply, instead of Nickelback creating music that's risky and authentic to them, the band is perceived as having a reputation for putting out whatever music is guaranteed to appeal to the masses, yet it's hard to tell if this—
God, man, Jesus. I agree their music isn't good, but music snobs are the worst. Music snobs are so
Reputation
bad.
for putting out whatever music is guaranteed to appeal to the masses, yet it's hard to tell if this perception is even correct. In an interview with Face Culture, Chad Kroger discusses how they've experimented with a bunch of different types of music.
We definitely started off as a little bit of a heavier band, but we found fans in so many different places because we just wanted to write different kinds of songs. So we'd write a song that was way over here and the fans would accept it, and then sometimes we'd write something really heavy and the fans...
Honestly, I do feel that though some of their songs are really soft and some are just going really hard. My one criticism of Nickelback was during the 2000s that there were some songs that did feel like they were copying You Remind Me. I feel like it's fair. I don't know, don't remember personally. I feel like if you want to give criticism to a band that always sounds the same in their songs, and it's actually a band I still like though, it's Imagine Dragons. Oh, cats? It's literally Imagine Dragons. Like, most Imagine Dragons songs do sound pretty similar to each other. I still like them.
would accept that too.
Before explaining that each band member perceives the music in their own unique way.
Everyone had their own different interpretation of it. One was political, one was religious, one was like corporate.
Which doesn't exactly sound like they were specifically trying to follow some kind of radio success formula.
Bands have a sound which you can identify immediately, and that's a good thing. However, they say Nickelback doesn't have an identity, but everyone knows it's them. It's disingenuous flock mentality. You are completely fucking right.
Maybe this point is just another reason the internet made up to justify hating them,
Look
because
at this
outside
graph.
of the internet they claim that they're...
Sorry, I sang over the
It's
video.
just another reason the internet made up to justify hating them, because outside of the internet they claim that they're hated by no one. For example, a petition requesting that Nickelback not play at halftime during an NFL game racked up over 55,000 signatures, yet after arriving in the city to play the concert, the band stated that it was nothing but love from the fans.
Playing the halftime, what was
Damn.
that? It was very
It must have been literally people who didn't even attend the fucking concert, man. People that just hated for the sake of
controversial
hating.
filled, and far less so when we actually got there. Every single human being that we came in contact with in Detroit was like, we love you. We have no idea what this is all about.
Now, there was that one time in Portugal where they walked off stage after having rocks and bottles thrown at them, yet as an overall, the band has been wise in framing the hatred as a long-term positive.
I've been really clear with my guys that all that hate has given our career legs. And that's the thing that scares me the most is if people finally stop hating us.
Man. I don't know, man. I love them. I love their songs. Always did. Even when people hated them. For no reason whatsoever. Even then.